Technology to proactively address health and safety issues in New York City. Particularly, we will examine how the Mayor's Office of Data Analytics utilizes data to make our government more efficient and transparent. The members of this committee and I are extremely familiar with the issues that affect our city, particularly on the ground in our own districts. We all strive to make New York City a cleaner, safer, and more livable place to live. At this moment, our government has the technological tools to not only identify what the issues are as they are happening, but also has found ways to predict the types of problems that may arise and address them before they even become problems. Over the past years, our government has become more technologically driven than ever before. Every day, New York City collects an immense amount of data about issues that affect our everyday lives, such as 311 calls made about an unsafe construction site, or the time it took for an ambulance to respond to the scene of an accident. With the help of testimony from the Mayor's Office of Data Analytics and other interested stakeholders, I hope to initiate a productive discussion today on how we may use this data to improve the safety of New Yorkers and make government services more efficient. While MODA only came into existence approximately a year ago, this office has become the creative engine for energy-driven data projects, agency-data-driven projects. MODA takes the lead on coordinating data sharing among agencies, identifying how that data can be analyzed, and how data analysis can be applied to solve real issues. Examples of such projects include an analysis of 911 response times, FDNY's risk-based inspection system to identify where fires are likely to occur, and the Department of Buildings B+ program to identify truly dangerous illegally converted units. We hope to hear more about these programs in depth today. A citywide data platform known as DataBridge enables these kinds of analyses and predictive modeling, acting as a shared storehouse of interagency data. Real-time automated data sharing between agencies and between the city and external vendors, such as LIPA and Con Ed, have recently been implemented, and this committee would like to know what types of data are shared and what entities are actively participating. While the aforementioned analyses are incredibly forward-thinking and useful, there are many more issues to tackle. For example, we must find ways to identify and address aging infrastructure, such as worn-out gas pipes and water mains, to prevent future catastrophic events. Additionally, MODA may be able to use data analysis to collect outstanding fines and fees owed to the city by businesses and individuals, or prevent businesses that are bad actors from being able to contract with the city in the future. This often overlooked behind-the-scenes analysis is integral to moving our city forward, and I hope the administration continues to build upon MODA's innovative work. I look forward to today's testimony. Okay, thank you all for coming, and let me introduce the first panel. We have Nicholas O'Brien, Mayor's Office of Data Analytics, Edward Baggett, Assistant Chief, FDNY, Jeff Roth, FDNY, Assistant Commissioner for Management Initiatives, and Joel Golub, Deputy Commissioner of FDNY. Okay, who would like to lead off? Sir, could you identify yourself for the record and proceed?
Thank you. Good morning, Chairperson Baca, members of the City Council Committee on Technology and Government. My name is Nicholas O'Brien. I'm the Chief of Staff at the Mayor's Office of Data Analytics. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. Also joining me today from the Fire Department are Fire Operations Assistant Chief Edward Baggett, Deputy Commissioner and Chief Information Officer Joel Golub, and Assistant Commissioner for Management Initiatives Jeff Roth. The Mayor's Office of Data Analytics works with agencies to develop and implement data-driven solutions to city service delivery issues. We enable the city to aggregate and analyze data from across city agencies and other sources to more effectively address crime, public safety, and quality of life issues. To facilitate this work, MODA works closely with the Department of Information Technology and Telecommunications, or DOIT, to develop and maintain a citywide data platform and data exchange architecture collectively known as DataBridge. MODA is also responsible for ensuring compliance by city agencies with the New York City Open Data Law, Local Law 11 of 2012, which is designed to increase access, accountability, and transparency in government. I'm here today to discuss specifically the MODA projects that use data to proactively address health and safety issues. I'd like to highlight two in particular that MODA is involved in: the Fire Department's risk-based inspection system and the multi-agency illegal conversions task force. Additionally, I'd like to discuss the city's open data initiative and how we are engaging with the civic technology community to address health and safety issues. This is certainly not intended to be an exhaustive inventory of all the uses of technology to address these issues. There are numerous other initiatives that agencies undertake on their own to proactively address health and safety concerns. The first initiative I would like to highlight is the Fire Department's risk-based inspection system. FDNY proactively conducts 50,000 building inspections per year. These inspections are primarily focused on buildings with commercial activity, such as retail stores and restaurants, high-occupancy towers, densely populated apartment complexes, and facilities like schools and senior centers, buildings where large groups of people live and work and where a single fire could cause many casualties. MODA partnered with the Fire Department in the development of a system that enables fire companies to prioritize inspections on the buildings that pose the greatest fire risk. The result was the Risk-Based Inspection System, or ARBIS, launched in May 2013. ARBIS has changed how each of the city's 341 fire units, engines and ladders, conduct daily building inspections. Fire units are responsible for inspecting buildings within their immediate response area. This work was previously performed on essentially a cyclical basis, with limited information about each structure. ARBIS accesses data on buildings and past inspections. Individual building information is also accessed from several other city agencies through the DataBridge data warehouse, including the Department of City Planning, Department of Buildings, Department of Environmental Protection, and the Department of Finance. ARBIS uses this data to score, prioritize, and automatically schedule a building for inspection. At the core of the system is the Firecast risk model that allows the FDNY to prioritize buildings for inspection based on specific risk criteria. By combining FDNY's fire incident data with building characteristics data from across the city, Firecast leverages a sophisticated statistical algorithm to assess fire risk on a daily basis. The algorithm is trained to identify buildings that resemble other buildings that have previously experienced fire by examining 13 structural risk factors, including location within the city, age of the building, principal use of the building, and history of previous fire incidents, among other factors. The system also captures and tracks violation history and then reschedules follow-up inspections when necessary. Since its launch, ARBIS has increased inspection targeting accuracy more than 8-fold. During the process of developing and validating ARBIS, FDNY allocated funding to stand up an in-house analytics unit. The FDNY Analytics Unit has now assumed full responsibility for ARBIS and is currently planning for an expansion of the model with additional data sources, including fire history and fire code enforcement actions. The model will continue to grow over time through inclusion of additional data and risk factors, and will be shaped and refined through ongoing monitoring and evaluation. Another way we are addressing dangerous health and safety conditions is through the Illegal Conversion Task Force. Illegally converted units pose an acute risk to residents, neighbors, and first responders. They often lack a second means of egress and may be equipped with illegal, unpermitted gas and electric lines. After 2 deadly fires in illegally converted units in the spring of 2011, in which 5 New Yorkers died, the city established the Illegal Conversions Task Force. This multi-agency initiative involves the Department of Buildings, the Fire Department, Department of Housing Preservation and Development, and the Mayor's Office of Data Analytics. The Department of Buildings receives roughly 18,000 illegal conversion complaints a year and is required to inspect them within 40 days. Some of these illegal conversions present a significantly higher risk of catching fire and resulting in injury or death. A risk analysis model was developed by MODA using historical data from past fires in buildings with illegally converted units to determine which of these complaints pointed to the most dangerous conditions. The model evaluates all illegal conversions and single-room occupancy complaints based on 20 metrics which have historically correlated with dangerous fires. High-risk complaints are inspected by a joint inspection team within 48 hours of being identified by MODA. Joint inspections are designed to increase the rate of access, The Joint Task Force gains access on 57% of inspections, compared to a roughly 41.6% access rate for routine inspections. If, after gaining access, the Joint Inspection Team determines the building is a risk to health and safety, a full or partial vacate order is ordered. In the event that a vacate order is imposed, tenants are offered relocation services through an HPD client services team. Since the inception of the task force in June 2011, 15.57% of buildings inspected have been issued vacate orders, and 41.8% have been issued one or more violations. This is a marked improvement over the rates of routine inspections, which see 7% vacated and 19% issued violations. To facilitate these types of initiatives, the City has been focused on developing technology solutions, especially interagency data sharing, to improve operations and performance of City services. One incident in particular that highlighted the need for better data sharing was a fire that occurred at the Deutsche Bank building at 130 Liberty Street in Manhattan on August 18, 2007. The fire tragically took the lives of two New York City firefighters, Robert Badia and Joseph Graffinino. One of the recommendations coming out of the review of this deadly incident was that the City should implement a system to share relevant results of inspections between departments of building, fire, and environmental protection. This recommendation resulted in the creation of Data Share, which was implemented by the DEEP team, as noted in your summary. Data Share enables the sharing of inspection information called for in the Deutsche Bank fire report. The system has been extended beyond this initial use case to cover more than 118 exchanges between 21 City entities and external partners, including Con Edison and National Grid. Before Data Share, many City agencies had expressed the need to share information, but exchanges were manual, inefficient, and unreliable, resulting in delayed customer service and enforcement issues. Data Share maintains exchanges between entities in a standardized format. These automated exchanges ensure that data is validated, sent in a timely manner, and enable data transparency and integrity. To maximize the City's investment in the Data Share program and the Do It analytics system, MODA partnered with the Mayor's Office of Data Analytics to create DataBridge, a central repository for City operational data. Access to much of this data is available to City employees on their desktop computers via request. The data has also been modeled into a suite of powerful tools to enable deeper analysis. The analytics system currently has over 600 active agency users across 47 agencies and organizations. We're also liberating this data from the desktop and putting it in the hands of inspectors in the field. MODA has partnered with the Mayor's Office of Special Enforcement, OSE, a multi-agency team of inspectors who respond to various health and safety complaints. OSE has worked over the last 8 months to pilot the development of the City's first mobile data platform for enforcement in the field. The tablet-based solution promotes more efficient field enforcement by using geocoded map-based interfaces and providing accessibility to information previously unavailable. It gives inspectors real-time report generation, submission, and analytics from the field. During the first month of the pilot, OSE did more inspections than in any other previous month, completing 191. This marks a 52% increase from their highest inspection count in previous month before the use of the mobile tablets. Moving forward, there is an opportunity to leverage the lessons learned through the pilot and take the mobile tablet to other agencies that perform routine inspections in the field to increase efficiencies, collect more data, and better ensure the safety and health of New Yorkers. While 311, 911, and inspections are highly valuable sources of information the City get about current conditions, the City proactively gathers information about hazardous conditions through the Street Conditions Observation Unit, or SCOUT. SCOUT is a team of inspectors based in the Mayor's Office of Operations. Their mission is to drive every city street once per month and report conditions that negatively impact the quality of life and may pose a risk to safety. SCOUT inspectors send reports of conditions they observe to the relevant agency for appropriate corrective action. The goal of SCOUT program is to improve the street-level quality of life and address dangerous conditions in city neighborhoods while enhancing the responsiveness of city government to these issues. The SCOUT unit has partnered with the Department of Transportation, Department of Parks and Recreation, Department of Sanitation, Department of Citywide Administrative Services, and the Lower Manhattan Construction Command Center in tailored field inspections and validated reporting conditions citywide. SCOUT has also been effectively deployed in the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy and other major storms to gather on-the-ground intelligence to assist agencies with addressing street conditions. This demonstrated the flexibility and ability of the team to address changing conditions and target different types of hazards. In addition to the efforts of the Mayor's Office of Data Analytics and city agencies are undertaking to improve the use of technology to directly address health and safety, we're also working to activate the public, and in particular the civic technology community, to assist in developing solutions. The lifeblood of these efforts is the public data released under the New York City Open Data Law. The law, passed by City Council in 2011, is widely considered the most progressive open data legislation in the nation. The law requires all public data to be posted on nyc.gov by the end of 2018. As of this month, we have already released over 1,100 data sets, including many that address health and safety, including fire codes, Department of Building vacates, and violations. The law aims to make city government operations more transparent, effective, and accountable to the public. It permits the public to assist in identifying efficient solutions for government and promotes innovative strategies for social progress. The technology community in New York City has been working hard to make this a reality. In February, Beta NYC, a local civic technology group, hosted a crime and public safety data hack night to start building tools based on the data the city has released in this area. This is one of many events the community holds to work on a variety of issues. MODA works closely with this community to connect them to subject matter experts and look for ways the city can use the insight of these dedicated individuals to improve city services. I provided a summary of just a few of the initiatives and programs the Mayor's Office of Data Analytics undertakes. MODA continues to work towards its mission of assisting agencies in leveraging city data for more effective, efficient, and transparent government. Analytics will continue to be a resource that helps leaders make complex decisions and ultimately improve the quality of life for New Yorkers. We have seen growing interest in creating dedicated analytics units within agencies. MODA worked closely with FDNY in the development of their analytics unit and continues to coordinate with them to share best practices and technologies. Another example of this growth is the Department of Buildings, which also created an in-house analytics unit. The growth of in-house analytics units allows city agencies to execute analytics projects faster and cheaper. As these analytics efforts grow, MODA will continue to work to facilitate access to city and external data and to consult on interagency projects. For additional information on the work we do, please visit our website at nyc.gov/analytics, where you can find our annual report and further detail on other initiatives. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
This is our testimony. We're working together. Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. How many, let me ask some questions. How many people are in the Scout unit?
The Scout unit, it varies because many of them are on assignment from different agencies, so they ramp up and they ramp down. The administrative staff is 3 folks, and then, as I said, it will ramp up depending on agency availability. They will ramp up significantly during a storm event.
But I would speculate to say it's a very small amount.
It's relatively small. They do try to cover every major street in the city on a monthly basis.
They don't report to your agency.
They report to the Mayor's Office of Operations.
They report to the Mayor's Office of Operations. So they oversee the Scout program.
Yes.
But then they have people from that agency that are assigned. They have Scouts that are assigned to individual city agencies.
The Scout members are employees of individual city agencies, and then they're put on assignment to the Scout program. Many of them are cross-trained, so they can detect different conditions that are in the jurisdiction of other agencies. So, for example, somebody on assignment from the Department of Buildings can note and record and report a violation that would be in DOT's purview.
I have to tell you that when the program was first initiated, I was excited about it, and I thought that it was a great idea. And, but I accompanied a team one day, and I think that it needs a lot of work. They were basically reporting potholes and stuff like that, and I think potholes are important, don't get me wrong. You know, we all think they're not important until your car falls into one or you walk into one. And in Staten Island, my colleague just arrived, Councilman Matteo. But if we're talking about emergencies, I don't know where the Scout program, I don't know the role that the Scout program would play.
So in the list of things that they do collect, one of the important ones is building facade damage, or any structural damage that they note that is apparent from the street. And those conditions, I think, do play a role in building collapses if you have facade damage that is apparent.
Okay. One thing I wanted to mention before I get to the list of questions, I always felt that if we're looking toward the future and what may be happening so that we can be proactive rather than reactive, I think that we have to have a buildings department policy review, because the buildings department is basically a reactive agency. It reacts to 311 complaints, or it reacts to a letter they get or an email. Buildings is not proactive at all. Yet, Buildings has knowledge, based on their records, of chronically problematic buildings. Buildings that that once had to vacate. Buildings that have civil penalties based on their refusal to comply with zoning. They have this in their database. Yet, there's nothing at the Buildings Department that's a proactive entity. And if we're looking at using technology, that's how they can use technology, and they should have a unit in that agency that is proactive. When you vacate a house that is a legal 3-family but was a 6-family, and you vacate that house, maybe a year later somebody should go back to see what was done. Was the 6-family reconverted back to a 3? There's no such unit in the Buildings Department that does that. So, I know you're not the Buildings Department, but I come back to how the purpose of this hearing, namely, what can our city do a little wiser? And I think that is one area.
And I think the very strong first step was the establishment of the Department of Buildings Analytics Unit. I can't speak to the details of their initiatives and what they are doing in the proactive space, but I believe if you spoke with them, they could point to some of the initiatives that are underway.
Well, I will tell you, when you speak about transparency, the Buildings Department website is very transparent. The BIS system, Building Information System, is very transparent. It is user-friendly. You can easily navigate it and find out what's going on based on what you want to know. I think other agencies should model some transparency after theirs. When you go to 311, when you go to NewYorkCity.gov, I think that is a model. Now, it allows citizens like myself many times to go into that system, and I find mistakes, and I have questions, and I call the Buildings Department, and I will see on that website there's a vacate order, but the place is operating. So why is there a vacate order? So but that's what transparency is all about. But I do think that that's a model that we should be looking to replicate for other agencies. So on one hand, I think we have to do better, but on the other hand, I think that Buildings, from a transparency point of view, has done okay. Yes, Councilman Matteo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate you having this hearing. And to buttress the chairman's point, talking about the scout team and technology and being, most agencies are reactive. We just had an issue with the Buildings Department. Just talked, that we believe they were building a 2-family, can only do 1 family. They went out there, they were building the 2-family, but it took us and the community to figure that out. And there has to be a way for DOB to be a little bit more proactive and doing more inspections or using technology. But the same can go for curbside weeds and lots, vacant city lots. Each year, my office, we have to send sanitation and health back to the same spots each year, when I could probably give you a list of 50 properties and curbsides that are going to need weed trimming and debris pickup. And this is where we can use technology to have a database that says, last year we cleaned this city property 3 times. Maybe we should start going back out there in May instead of waiting for the councilman's office or 311 to report, and then it takes 30 to 40 days to do it, and then we get maybe 1 or 2 cleanings. Being proactive and using technology, and somehow we can get some sort of catalog where the city can just say, yeah, it's going to be scheduled. And I know resources are an issue, and we've talked about that with the sanitation department, but in my district, quality of life issues where it seems that the agencies are only going to react when we request it. I'd like to see that the Scout program or other technology used to be so that we can plan ahead, and come springtime when all these new quality of life issues arise, that we're dealing with them instead of reacting to them.
And the information that the Scouts find, we don't know what they found. The council people, the community boards, there should be a transparency aspect to that also. I mean, do you agree? Is that something that we can talk about?
Absolutely. They triage, they send most of their things through the 311 system, so that is available through open data on the 311 service request list, and also on the service request map that is provided by Do It.
Okay. I may want to look into having a separate hearing on that program. Okay, let me ask some questions. 911 analytics report breaks down response time by incident type, but not by location. It is widely known that the 911 response times are better in some areas of the city than others. And we just had this major incident, as you know, in the Rockaways. And I know that in my borough of the Bronx, there have also been variations that have concerned me in response time. How could data analytics help improve response times in all boroughs and neighborhoods, not just average response time around the city? So my point is, we may be looking at a citywide response time, but we still have neighborhoods in our city that fall below the average response time, or I should say above the average response time. So what are we doing to address those particular neighborhoods that may be in the outskirts or may have issues, transportation issues, access issues?
Thank you, Councilman.
Identify yourself, sir, first.
My name is Joel Golub. I'm the CIO for the Fire Department. And right now there is an active study being undertaken by the OCEC group, which is the Mayor's Office for Emergency Communications, to look at methods of reducing call processing time. That's an active project that's underway. We would need someone from OCEC to represent it. We can get some information to you on it, but they are looking at ways of reducing the call processing time when someone calls 911.
When was that commission formed, sir?
This was just initiated this past month to look for ways of reducing call processing time.
Now, this is a multi-agency task force?
It is. They're working with NYPD and FDNY to analyze the data and look for opportunities to reduce call processing time from the point that someone calls 911 to the point where that call is handled and processed through the 911 center.
We're looking at technology?
Yes, we're looking at technology and opportunities on methods of handling the call to get it processed faster.
Is the Mayor's Office of Analytics involved in that?
Yes,
You're part of that task force. When do you expect to have a report or complete your study?
I don't want to represent the other agency. I'd have to go back and get some information for you on that, and I'll be happy to do that for you.
Okay. Now, last year, MODA had a project to track 911 response times, and I wanted to know what those recommendations were, and is there a conclusion? I thought that your agency already... Did your agency do something similar to this, or is it parallel?
So we put together the entire call processing time, including the NYPD processing time when they intake the call at the 911 call center. That is available publicly at nyc.gov/911 reporting, and you can view the breakdown by incident and by segment of the different call types.
So that report's finished and it's online?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell us about the project your office did with FDNY to implement a risk-based inspection system? What were the conclusions and how they were reached, and what has been implemented so far?
We started the process, we validated the process, and then turned it over to the FDNY Analytics Unit. I'd like to turn over to Jeff Roth for some specific details on the ongoing ARBIS system.
I'm Jeff Roth, Assistant Commissioner for Management Initiatives at the FDNY. ARBIS, or the Risk-Based Inspection System, is an application that fire operation field units use to do their building inspections. Every company in the city is required to do 3 hours 3 times per week, or 9 hours total of building inspection time, where they go out and proactively look at buildings that we think are most at risk for fire activity. The risk-based inspection system has an engine, a statistical model that runs in the background that looks at data from various city agencies that Nick spoke about and prioritizes those buildings for inspections based on risk criteria. Those are then scheduled for building inspection time, and when the company goes out, they have a list of buildings that we think are most likely to have a fire activity, and they prioritize those for inspections. We have a current model that's out that deployed in July last summer, 2013. That includes 13 factors that we pull from various city sources. And we're building a new model, 3.0, we call it Firecast 3.0, that's looking at data sources from even additional city sources to make the model even stronger and more predictive in terms of where we go for building inspections.
You're identifying buildings that are fire prone, fire dangerous, fire tinderboxes.
Correct. We use historical fire data to do correlation activity. So we look at the factors of buildings that have historically had a fire, and then we trend that forward. So yes, we're looking at buildings that we think are prone to have a fire.
When you get that information, what do you do with it? You go to the buildings department, you go to HPD to seal. I know we're not demolishing, we're basically not demolishing in New York City anymore. Years ago, you used to get an unsafe building certification, UB it was called, and you would go ahead and demolish. But there's been very few demolitions the past 8 years. So my question to you is, what do you do with that information then?
So the information itself goes into our application, the risk-based inspection system. When the company is on their building inspection time, they access that application, and it gives them a list of buildings they go out and inspect. Do you want to answer about what they do at the inspection?
Yes, sure. Yes, good morning, Chairman Vaca. My name is Assistant Chief Ed Baggett. Thank you for having us here today. Basically, like Jeff said, the application is basically populates a risk of buildings in each unit's administrative area. I'll say in your neighborhood, say City Island. And these are not vacant buildings. These are buildings that are occupied today. These could be commercial buildings. These could be multiple residential buildings, things like that. And based on statistics that our analytics unit uses, we have our firefighters enter those buildings and do inspections. Okay? And hopefully our risk model drives us to we'll find places where maybe exits may be locked, maybe there is accumulations of rubbish, other things that may breed to a fire condition. And our goal is basically to reduce the likelihood of a fire and also to reduce the likelihood there would be an injury or death as resulted for a fire. Let's say we find that the sprinkler system is not working effectively, or the standpipe system is not working effectively. Violations would be issued if it's very severe, if it's a condition, say, imminent to life, maybe we would vacate, but that's basically the crux of how we do it. Then when the unit comes back, enters their information into the computer, into our risk-based system, that is regenerated every night, and then again the next day, the system basically gives the units a list of buildings to go out and inspect. In addition, it gives us a better way to follow up on violations that have been issued. Again, historically, the fire department has been, it's a reactive agency, but we've been also proactive. We have inspected buildings for many years. We used to do it in a paper-based system that was basically confined to that local unit. Now we have this electronic ARBIS system, which brings uniformity and I think helps us better target these places that may be prone to fire. And we looked, basically, as we move forward, we hope to refine those models and even make them better based on our analysis.
A couple of things. First of all, when you said you issue violations, you go and inspect, you may find rubbish, you may find other fire issues. So you give a violation. Do you come back in 30 days? Or is there a time period when you come back to make sure that that violation means something rather than a piece of paper that somebody will just allow be another lien on the building, basically?
It all depends on the severity of the... We issue violations in two manners. One is the... giving an NOV, a notice of violation. Those are adjudicated through ECB. Those are essentially self-certified, or they have to go to ECB. For more serious violations, we issue a violation order. Those we go back and re-inspect possibly 15 days, 30 days, or maybe if it's a forthwith, we'll come back and inspect in the next 24 hours.
So your officers or your people in the field, they're aware of these guidelines?
That is correct.
They
Yes.
know where to place each issue, that they know what constitutes what, basically.
Right. We have a rather robust manual guidelines on building inspections. In addition to this, we have what we call our BISP hotline. It's basically an administrative union that any company out doing BI, if they have a question, can refer to, and it helps them through the process of issuing these VOs, interpreting some of the legal issues regarding violations. So we have a rather robust system, I believe.
An issue that affects the buildings department also affects you. What happens if somebody denies you access to his house or her house? If they deny you, you're there to inspect. Person doesn't answer the bell. Person says, I'm not letting anybody in my house.
That is problematic. We try to go back up to 3 times. We will even put a poster on a building saying that we try to come and ask them to call us. If we have, I believe, if we have good evidence that there may be an issue in there that affects life and safety, we could go and get a search warrant. It doesn't happen that often, but it does happen.
That happens very seldom.
That's correct.
Same thing with the buildings department, very seldom.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any occasion where when you go to inspect a home, you call the resident first?
No, we do not. First of all, we do not inspect 1 and 2 family homes. And even when we inspect multiple dwellings, we do not enter the living area. Our inspections are confined to the public areas. An apartment building, that would be the lobby, the hallways, the roof area, the fire escapes on the exterior, the basement area where the heating plant is, and the electrical. We do not enter each individual's living space.
You would enter the basement,
That is correct.
and you would inspect the boiler, the electrical circuit breaker box.
Right. We look for obvious signs of violations, open wiring, things that are obvious to us. We look at the standpipe system. We make sure the OSNY to the standpipe and/or sprinkler system is open, things like that in multiple dwellings.
And your inspections are not necessarily complaint-driven?
No, not at all. Not at
Okay.
all. Some are complaint-driven, but others are done on a proactive basis based on our risk model.
All right, so if you're a homeowner in New York City, could you expect the fire department to come to your house once every 5 years, once every 6 years? If you're a homeowner with a house and appears to be in good condition, nobody's complained about anything,
Are you talking about a 1 or 2 family house?
1 and 2 family house.
We would really not inspect that. Again, that is not in our prerogative. We do not inspect 1 or 2 family homes.
I want to see you after the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Now, what's the B-Plus program? You mentioned it a little bit. How does this program work, and how has it improved DOB's ability to fight illegal conversions? It's an issue in my district, but it's an issue citywide.
So the Illegal Conversion Task Force identifies what we believe to be the most dangerous complaints, illegal conversion complaints coming into the system. The B-Plus is more broad, takes in more types of complaints, and tags them when they come out at the borough commands with a flag to indicate that they are an elevated risk. They do not get the same rigor of the 48-hour inspection turnaround, but they are flagged for priority over other inspections.
How many B-Plus complaints do you think buildings handles?
I can get you that number. I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'd like to know in a year, and how many of those. That would worry me. And I'd like to know what the follow-up is on those dangerous ones. How do you get external agencies to share data? I'm thinking of Con Edison in particular, but how do you get external agencies? Is there cooperation here, or is this something you always have to, on what basis are they cooperating with you if they are?
For Con Edison, the data we get from them has to do with the outages. We set up that data feed in the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy when the city was experiencing widespread power outages, so that the city had the most up-to-date information about which neighborhoods and which individuals were affected.
How about underground issues?
We don't currently receive a feed of that information on a regular basis.
Shouldn't we? We had a serious explosion in Harlem, and we have an aging infrastructure in this city.
It's certainly something that we'd be interested in looking into, but we have not as of yet.
Okay. I would suggest we do that. I'm told that Con Edison has a van. I don't know how many vans, but that these vans try to detect what's going on underground. And I've tried to get information on how many vans we have, but there are vans that Con Edison has. So there is information on what is going on down below. And I think that we have to have information from Con Edison on a regular basis about the concerns they have or issues they're addressing underground. And I say that because without that information, with an aging infrastructure in this city, parts of our city, we have piping installed in the 1800s, still in place. I don't think that our preparedness is going to be all-inclusive unless we have that. Did we request it in the past? Is this something, because talking to Con Edison about when there's a blackout, I mean, I can find out when there's a blackout by getting a Notify New York City email, although that's something else I want to go into. I'm not happy with Notify New York City. But I do get emails from them telling me when there's a blackout in Staten Island. I get an email. So I don't know if we need Con Edison for that as much as we need them for what's going on underground.
And I'm happy to follow up with him and find what data might be available and how we could kick off a data sharing agreement, and we'll report back to you.
I think there has to be a sense of urgency about it. You know, I mean, here in Harlem, we had a situation where no one called Con Edison. You know, sometimes when you smell gas, you're not sure you're smelling gas. It's like people didn't call because maybe they weren't absolutely certain what that smell was. So I'd like for them. How about cable companies? Do you have a relationship with cable companies? Is that something you should have? Shouldn't you have a relationship with cable companies?
We currently do not get information from the cable utilities.
But then what we're doing is not inclusive of what we should be doing, right? Shouldn't cable companies have communication with us, and shouldn't they be part of our discussion?
Yeah, I think we've made great strides in collecting a lot of the city information together in one place. It's an ongoing effort, and we certainly are always looking for new sources of data so that we have the most comprehensive picture of the city.
Let me ask you something. The MTA, they have track work, signal work. They have signal stations, both above ground and on street level. Should they be involved with us? Should they be at the table in some shape or form?
They do release data on their turnstile activity, so we know the flows in and out of the system. They make that public, and we do look at that. I certainly think there are opportunities for greater data sharing going forward.
Okay. So the examples I've given, I think, are basically non-city agencies. But then we go into what is a non-city agency. So if we're going to make this all-inclusive, you know, I'm thinking of hybrids like HHC and NYCHA. Now, they're technically not city agencies, but they are getting city money, and I just see a role for them. I'm not in your agency, so I don't have an idea what the role would be, but I do think that what we're doing now is kind of restrictive in who we're involving. It may not be all on one task force, but you may want to have other task forces that deal with the role of non-governmental agencies, the hybrid agencies, and things like that. Okay? Is there anything preventing you from connecting all city agencies through Data Bridge and automating all of the data sharing functions in the near future?
Just the size of the city and the amount of work that it takes to do that. As far as we know, there are no structural limitations to it, except for resource constraints that we have.
All right, go into that with me. What are your resources? How many people are in the Mayor's Office of Data Analytics?
Currently, right now, we are staffed for 8 people.
You have 8 people working in your agency, in your division? All right, you report to who? Who is the commissioner that you report to?
We report to the Director of Operations, Mindy Tarlow.
All right, so you report to the Mayor's Office of Operations, so you're under them. Your agency was created when? It was recently, but just tell me when for the record.
It was in April of last year.
April of last year. Did you start off with 8 people?
Yes.
So you started off with 8 people and you're still at 8 people?
Yes.
It seems to me that as we expand the role of your agency, that we have to look at manning up and getting more people in your division. Is that something that your agency's requested? Is this something that's on the table?
I mean, I certainly think there is plenty of work to do. It is not my decision to make in terms of the proper staffing level.
Okay. That may be something we can look at the council to make sure that you're properly staffed. Everything today is technology, and to think of only 8 people in your unit with the job that I think we have ahead of us is something that I want to pursue. I want to recognize my colleague Annabelle Palmer, who just arrived. Welcome. Okay. How many agencies have internal data analysis like FDNY? How many agencies have a model that would be similar to FDNY? We've heard buildings, we've heard FDNY. Do other agencies have models like that, where they have...
They exist on different levels and have different focuses. One example is Department of Education stood up the Innovation Zone, which is similar. I think we're attempting to figure out exactly what the perfect mix is for an analytics unit, because some of these fixes are more based on operations, some of them are based more on data, and it has a lot to do with the savvy of the agency in terms of their progress in standing up data systems. So ones that are more advanced would have more computer scientists and statisticians required, and ones that are still more paper-based would have more operational people who would figure out how to manage that change process from those older methods to more modern methods.
Okay. The FDNY, can you describe your risk-based inspection system and how has this assisted you in identifying dangerous conditions?
Sure. Again, Assistant Commissioner for Management Initiatives, Jeff Roth. That's what we talked about a little bit earlier, and just to kind of speak more to the model and how it works. When we deployed the application in March of 2013, I had a very simple model in the background that looked at data that we had collected through building cards, which were the paper-based system that Chief Baggett spoke of. And as we stood up our own analytics unit, we were able to do more rigorous data analysis, and we deployed a new model in the background of the application in July. That model is out there now. It has a stronger predictive capability than the previous model. And currently we're looking at data factors from across multiple city agencies leveraging the data bridge data warehouse, and we're looking at multiple factors to make the prediction model even stronger. We expect to deploy that sometime this summer as well, so it'll be our 3rd generation of the risk model, and we think that'll help us target even better and prioritize even better buildings that we think are most at risk.
Do you have a full-time analytics person on staff?
We have a team of 4 people in our own analytics unit, yes.
Okay. And is there information that would be useful to you that you don't have? Have you identified where you want to go with advancing in this field?
Yeah, we've been leveraging the data bridge, and certainly, Nick has spoken to some of the constraints, resource constraints of that. Certainly, after the explosions in East Harlem, we were as interested as anybody in looking at data from sources outside of city government. So to the extent that someday we could have access to those databases would be fantastic and interesting to see if there is correlation activity with fire and risk.
Okay. I have no further questions. It's good having a 2-person committee here. I get to dominate everything, But,
one thing I would, to your last question, Chairman, the 47 different agencies currently access the analytics system, and so that is an estimate of the number of people who are looking at these types of data. I can't speak to exactly what all of those different agencies are doing with it, but that is just a general sense of how many people are utilizing it.
Okay. Any questions, Annabelle? No? Okay. Okay, I want to thank the panel, and we'll go on. We have another panel now. Dominic Morrow, Reinvent Albany, Noel Hidalgo, Beta, New York City, and Dara Adams, SAS Institute. The fire department came to my mother's house last month.
Oh, yeah?
My mother has a legal two-family house.
And they were doing an inspection?
My mother's house is in good condition. The truck comes to my mother's house. What?
I got Courtney Groves because she's at the press conference. And I said Jimmy can be your interview.
Oh, yeah?
Put her in. So
Okay.
remember to call her when we're done here.
Okay.
And she can grab you quickly.
Yes, okay. Hey, all right. So they come to my mother's house, the fire truck.
And they were saying they were doing an inspection?
Yes, so my mother calls me. I says, Ma,
They don't do that.
don't let anybody in. They don't do that.
Yeah.
She says, Jimmy, the fire trucks are, my mother's 84 years old, and my
Yeah.
mother does not let anyone in the house. I says, Ma, don't let anybody in. You have nothing wrong with the house that I know of. It's in very good condition.
Yeah.
She's immaculate. I said, and they don't inspect one and two family houses. But they don't, eh?
Right. It was interesting, right. I mean, interesting based on what he said. Because he said we don't do that.
I know.
Like, why?
Is this going okay? Is this hearing going okay? Is this hearing going okay?
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah.
I'm all alone here. This is some committee business. Give one. Hello, everybody. That's a Bronx hello if I ever heard one before in my whole life. Hello, everybody. Good morning, I should say that. That's better. Why don't we start? And let me ask, would the young lady please go first and introduce yourself? And we'll take off, okay?
There we go. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for inviting me to present today. My name is Dara Adams, and I'm the account executive for New York City Local Government at SAS Institute. Prior to joining SAS, I spent 6 years in public service, including my roles as the Community Affairs Director for the New York City Department of Ed and as an aide to Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney. SAS is a 38-year-old company based in North Carolina. We're the industry leader in advanced analytics and statistical software and solutions, and the largest privately held software company in the world. Recently, we launched an advanced analytics lab with 200 researchers focused exclusively on solving the most challenging problems facing state and local governments. New York City's partnered with SAS for decades, with close to 20 agencies already relying on our solutions, including the Mayor's Office of Data and Analytics, which you just heard from, the Fire Department, and the Center for Innovation through Data Intelligence. What is analytics? Simply stated, analytics involves applying advanced math and statistics to data to reveal information, not just about what happened in the past, but also about what we can expect to happen in the future and how we can achieve the best outcomes going forward. While there are limitless applications for how analytics can be used by governments to solve problems and save lives and money, I'd like to focus today on how analytics can be applied to help protect and improve the lives of some of our most vulnerable New Yorkers, our children. This past January here in New York City, 4-year-old Miles Dobson was starved, tortured, and beaten to death by his father's girlfriend while his father was in jail. An investigation revealed that, among other red flags, the Administration for Children's Services wasn't aware that Miles' father was in jail or that he'd been incarcerated for 6 months previously, despite ACS having made 9 visits to the home during that time. I can say with confidence that tragedies like this one can be avoided with better data integration across agencies and the application of advanced analytics. I know this because SAS is engaged by state and local governments around the nation to prevent tragedies like this from occurring. Recently, the Florida Department of Child and Family Services came under scrutiny for a rash of child fatalities and turned to SAS to help make improvements to child protective investigations. SAS analyzed DCF data and used advanced analytics to give DCF the knowledge it needed to reform its policies, expand its focus on the right issues, and empower caseworkers to make better decisions relating to families in crisis. LA County also uses SAS analytics to help protect against child abuse within its foster care programs. We have an obligation to protect our most precious and defenseless New Yorkers, and analytics is an extremely effective and underutilized tool in our arsenal. Further, compared to other technology initiatives, analytics are relatively low cost and easy to implement and can provide benefits within weeks rather than years. Having worked in city government, I understand that there are challenges and barriers to adopting analytics, including reluctance by city agencies to share data and an apprehension to change the way they operate. Many city agencies are starting to realize the potential of analytics, but there is much, much more that can and should be done. New Yorkers have only just begun to see the benefits of analytics, and I hope that you will continue to encourage discussion on how agencies can better share, integrate, and analyze data. Thank you again for your time and attention today, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Next witness.
I have to apologize. I had a printer error, so you actually don't have my testimony in front of you.
See this technology business, what happens?
I know.
I told you about technology. You don't want to listen.
I will, if you had a CIO that created a website that allowed me to digitally submit testimony, I would have digitally submitted the testimony. I hope that under this speaker that and your leadership that can change this year. So.
All right. Don't get too carried away.
one issue at a time. My name's Noel Hidalgo, and it's a great honor to address you and represent the New York City's technology community, particularly a rather active group of technologists, the Civic Hackers. We are over 1,700 members, and Beta NYC's mission is to build a city for the people, by the people, for the 21st century. Last fall, we published the People's Roadmap to a Digital New York City, where we outlined a digital roadmap for the people. We are a member-driven organization and members of the New York City Transparency Working Group, a coalition of good government groups that supported the city's transformative open data law. While there are many specifics that I could point out, I will focus on 3 points of governance: leadership, data standards and quality, and citizen-centric design. During the last 3 years of the Bloomberg administration, New Yorkers were turned on to a well-oiled analytical machine. Championed by the city's chief analytics officer, Executive Order 306 of 2013, and the city's open data law, citizens were able to see the value of interlocking 21st century components. 4 months into the de Blasio administration, the city is missing a suite of leaders who steward technology, data, and a progressive vision. Currently, the city's missing a chief information officer at DoIT. The city's missing a chief analytics officer at the MODA. The chief digital officer has yet to be appointed at NYC Digital, and there's no executive director at the NYC Technology Development Corporation. This leadership gap affects all agencies. We need coordination across each agency. The city needs CIOs and CTOs within agencies who can properly value internal and external data collaboration. Systems like 311, NYC Data Share, and Data Bridge are fundamental underpinnings to a fully integrated and efficient government. We need the mayor's office to hire a progressive technology leadership team. These leaders will set the tone for data and coordination. Without them, we're unable to collectively build a progressive technology agenda that maps to the city's needs. The second issue, when it comes down to data quality. Currently, the city isn't maximizing its return on data sharing. First, the city's GIS department is unique. They're the first line of attack in making the city's data useful. Their maps, while helpful, often obscure access to the data. The city's RAT information portal, RIP, contains unified RAT inspection data under a complicated and sometimes frustrating map interface. I can't find this data on the city's data portal. A month or so ago, one of our members needed to find a child care center. The data provided on the health and mental hygiene lookup tool was inaccurate, nor could she find this data on the city's data catalog. Several of our members saw this as a noble challenge, scraped the data, and produced a usable map. Sadly, this is just a snapshot of data and needs a partnership with HMH to keep this map alive. These are just 2 examples of city data being locked behind frustrating interfaces. This year, the Council needs to update its open data law to ensure that these curated and sanitized data sets are accessible to the general public. We need the city's open data law to be expanded and enforced. Data standards. Over the last 10 years, technologists have worked to build commonly defined data environments. These data environments have created commonly defined schemas. In the broadest sense, these are internationally recognized words, sentences, and shared narratives, more or less a structured language for computer applications. In 2012, Yelp, the City of San Francisco, the City of New York, and Code for America announced the formation of the LIVE standard, a unified standard for restaurant inspection scores. When the standard was launched, New York City was suspiciously absent. I mention this because the city's 4-year-old restaurant inspection score data continues to be riddled with data errors and not compliant with the LIVE standard. We have complained and no one seems to care. Again, the city has produced its own restaurant inspection website and app. Both have frustrating interfaces. These are 3 examples of useful data being locked away behind a glass wall. Health and Mental Hygiene, Housing Authority, Department of Transportation, NYPD, Department of Buildings, 311, Consumer Affairs, all have health and safety data pools that should be open and shared in common data standards. We need the city to adopt data standards to maximize our collective data sharing investment. Now this comes down to citizen-centric design. Once we get the better data quality, we can build better notification tools. A guiding principle of citizen-centric design places data and information where citizens need the data most. If I'm going out to eat, I'm not going to walk around the block to look at restaurant inspection scores. There are countless data flows that citizens, parents, consumers, eaters, motorcyclists, bicyclists, transit riders, etc. should have. Without placing good data into the hands of civic technologists and civic hackers, the city is not maximizing its fiduciary duty. Imagine a parent subscribed to their child's daycare center sanitation alerts. Imagine a restaurant owner subscribed to street construction alerts. Imagine your constituent getting personalized notifications on assaults and thefts in the neighborhood. These systems are possible if agencies consistently share data via consistent data standards. The city must invest in an intra-agency and public data sharing. If the city is going to invest in a regulatory process to protect its constituents, it needs to share that information by physical and digital means. Access to information is a fundamental human right, and in the 21st century, access to good, clean, health and safety data is a fundamental right. Thank you.
Sir?
Good morning, and thank you, Chairman Vaca and other member of the Technology Committee for holding this timely hearing. My name is Dominic Morrow, and I'm testifying today on behalf of reInvent Albany, where I'm the staff attorney. reInvent Albany also co-chairs the New York City Transparency Working Group, and our organization and coalition strongly support the application of statistical modeling and predictive analytics. And we would like to see a Mayor's Office of Data Analytics with the resources to effectively perform such analysis and share the results with the public. So we're here to make 2 points. The Mayor's Office of Data Analytics should be robustly funded and staffed. It is an extremely powerful tool for the sound and efficient management of the city. And second, whenever possible, data produced by MODA and city agencies should be available to the public via the city's open data portal. In some cases, concerns about the privacy of individuals and concerns about security preclude making data open. However, a significant share of the data used by MODA and assembled in the city's DataBridge database, as well as data used in agency stat performance management by agency executives, does not affect security or impinge on individual privacy. This data should be public. Currently, the city has a small public data universe and a very large internal data universe that the public cannot see. This is not in the spirit of the open data law and does not get the best value from the data the city is collecting and analyzing at great taxpayer expense. MODA was formally established about a year ago, although New York City has saved tremendous amounts of taxpayer money and employee time over the last decade, thanks to the previous administration's investment in data-driven government. We strongly urge the city to continue to support a large and robust MODA with at least a dozen analysts. We believe the city would see enormous savings from the kind of insight that MODA can provide with data analytics. The comprehensive agency data the city has access to via its DataBridge data management system is among the most valuable the city has. The data is highly scrutinized and refined and expensively collected. Policy decisions for the entire city should be informed and driven by MODA and its team of data analysts. We heard about the MODA and its collaboration with the fire departments, and other agencies should make their data available to MODA for this kind of analysis and prediction. The savings would be staggering. However, this data should not just live on DataBridge for MODA's private use. These data sets and analytics should be shared with the public. If the health department were to find a novel connection between environmental conditions and risk of disease or infections, they should put it online. If the police department finds a connection between crime and some local indicator, that should be put online. The collection and analysis of this data was paid for by the public, and it belongs to the public. Barring some specific infringement of personal privacy, this data should not be secret. Likewise, the information which agencies are already collecting and analyzing about their own performance, collectively known as agency stat, should be made available as open data. New York City should not have a two-tiered system with public data sets for the public to use and private data sets for MOTO's use only. To realize the maximum value of this data, it needs to be shared with the public. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I wanted to get back to something Mr. Hidalgo said, and you talked about understanding the technology, and I think that many people may have access to technology, but the way it's laid out is very confusing to them, very difficult for them to access. If you had difficulty finding things on the health department website, just think what the average person goes through. So isn't one of the challenges we're facing making the accessibility of technology a little more user-friendly and easier to access?
Yes. So NYC Digital ran a great campaign, I think in their first year, to reinvent nyc.gov. They did a hackathon, they solicited public improvement, or at least ideas and consideration on how to improve nyc.gov, just the landing page alone. But yet when we go to agency by agency websites, Department of Consumer Affairs is an excellent example of this, you get information overload. And you get information overload. If you go to DCA's website, you're bombarded with all of the opportunities that you go to DCA's that DCA offers. Each agency, through a combination of Do It, should be engaged with the general public to find out how to lower the barriers to get access to that information, how to simplify it, how to streamline it, and have a constant conversation. What Beta NYC does is that we are the city's technology community, and we're here to help government agencies understand how to better use those information frameworks to deliver that information in a simpler and easy-to-use format. We have colleagues. There's another group called the Civic Service Forum, which is also about trying to use design to lower the barrier to information. A lot of these websites, as they've been crafted over the last decade or so, have just had more and more Lego pieces attached to it. And so it sometimes can be very complicated to navigate those websites. And if we're going to maximize our dollar in technology, we need to evaluate each one of these websites using the CIOs and CTOs of agencies and the general public.
You really went where I was going, because I also find that the DOE website is overloaded with stuff, and I don't think most parents are that technology savvy to really get what they want out of the DOE website. So my comment to you is, what can we do, or what can your organization or advocates, all of you, do to rate the various agency websites? I'd like them given an A and a B, like the coffee place I go to in the morning. And why did it get an A, and why did it get a B, and what can we do to improve it? I think a rating system, not just for New York City.gov as a whole, but for the agencies and their websites. Is that something you've looked at?
So an international organization called the Open Knowledge Foundation currently has a census that's taking a look at every single major city in the United States, and the data or information that they're providing, and allows you to score it. New York City so far hasn't done as good of a job of some of the other cities, but technology is more of that conversation. So we need to have a better understanding of what New Yorkers need versus what Chicagoans need. I agree that there should be an active conversation about performance, information, data, mapping capabilities, and make sure that the people have access to that. We can take that on as a challenge, and we would gladly like to work with you to work on a report like that, so that way you can hold agencies' feet to the fire, and hopefully we can get some of these websites designed in a way that's useful for all New Yorkers. Multilingual, mobile, it has interfaces that easily get access through search engines, etc.
Well, I would think first we have to develop a rubric. The rubric would have to be, what do we look for? And a measurement tool.
The analytics is also available so that you could even understand what are the analytics, who's visiting the website, how often, what are the most clicked things. Think about when you go on your Facebook page or any other, ad site, and you see all these customized ads popping up. I just bought a ticket. I'm going to Chicago, and so all of a sudden I go on my Facebook page and I see all these things of what I could do in Chicago. That's because Facebook's capturing that data and is able to apply analytics that they're customizing their user experience for me. There's no reason that any other city agency couldn't apply the same technology that SAS uses for Target, uses for all kinds of private companies to city sites, so that when you go and check the DOB website, you're getting a personalized experience of the things that you most visit, the things that you look at, so that your user experience is better.
Very, very interesting. Go ahead, sir.
Also, if I may, and it doesn't have to be about predictive too. For years, city websites have failed to provide basic information like child care centers, and the web analytics and the server logs record all this information. We can find out where city websites and constituents have been talking past each other, where people go to these websites and they don't find what they're looking for. They type into the search box, child care centers, and nothing pops up. We can find out what people are interested in, instead of blindly pumping out more data into the open data portal and hoping that a developer finds some information that people wanted and turns it into a usable form for people. Because I'm a lawyer. I have no practical skills. I can't make any use of the data on the open data portal.
The other thing I would say is that a lot of people can't. I'm not a data scientist either, or, an amateur data anything. My background's in government. So I go on the open data website. I think it's awesome, but there's millions of rows of data and it doesn't mean anything. And I don't have the ability to make a visualization. And we are so grateful for the open data community and the I go to the hackathons, for Noel and his group, because they put together these visualizations that help us to make sense of the data. But the city should be doing more visualization as well. And the technology is out there and available for them to be building their own visualizations and to be creating dashboards instead of, giant spreadsheets worth of things to tabulate. I went on DCAS's website the other day, and they have a performance management, site. You can check the performance. Maybe I'm just not that bright. I couldn't make it work. I couldn't figure it out. And I couldn't understand why it wasn't visual, why I had to, click a box here and click a box there, and there was even like an and/or symbol. It was very not intuitive. And there's no reason that I shouldn't be able to go and see how our city's performing. Other cities are doing it.
One last thing. So NYC Digital did a good job through their hackathon of reinventing NYC.gov to come up with some core performance values, things that should be integrated in the Do-It system that's provided to all different agencies. That was a very early conversation of what has then been extended by the UK's Digital Government Services, GDS, which is imagine our version of Do-It, but a department within Do-It, which is their sole mission is to look at technology construction based upon design values, modern design values that have been set forth by the technology communities that really incorporate a broad spectrum of user interfaces. The federal government just put together a team that grows out of some of their own initiatives that is looking to modernize their own web infrastructure and use these basic design principles that are used in every other major website that you go to, and to start applying them explicitly to government. Several of us have gone to the mayor's office and said it would be great if we had a similar department in Do-It, or whether it's the New York City Technology Development Corporation, whether it's New York City Digital, but it would be great if the city could take its technology resources, hire from the best talents that we have here in this digital city, and really start to improve our infrastructure. We testified at the Rules Committee talking about the value of open source. Most of these agencies that are developing government websites are also using commonly standard open source tools to lower the cost of deployment. We can do this here in New York, but we need some leadership. We need to kind of staff and hire not only MODA, but also some digital teams that can build proper interfaces. And then we need to have conversations with the constituents. All New Yorkers, from the entire spectrum on how they access information and how we can deliver and improve that.
You're raising some very good points. I'm concerned about all the vacancies we have as you tick them off. We also don't have a Do-It Commissioner yet. So all of these things weigh on me as well, and I think the time has come that we have to move on these things, and we're going to prod because it's already April. It would be good to have people in place, and in technology we need people in place. Okay, I do want to mention we were joined by Councilmember Mark Weprin. And any more witnesses? No. Okay. I want to thank you for coming and for your input, and we will be in touch. You have some good ideas, all of you.
Thank you.
Without further business, it's 11:15, and this hearing of the Technology Committee of the City Council is hereby adjourned.